What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome back to the show, your positive podcast, safe space, and a great place for a positive outlook on life. Here we are again, another week down. This quarantine feels like it'll never end, but hopefully we're another week closer to freedom. I myself have been trying to figure out what to do with all the spare time on my hands, so I've been picking up some small projects to do around the house. I was so bored, I even went out and bought a Lego kit to do for like the nostalgic feeling, just to pass the time. And I know I said to expect an episode to drop every Tuesday, but I had some extra editing to do, so I may be a day late, but it's for a good reason, because today on the podcast we have some special guests. But before we get into our interesting and wonderful guests, let's go over this week's unrelated fun fact. Now, I've mentioned before on previous podcasts about one of my favorite facts being the receptors in your nose are only active when you're awake. I remember reading it somewhere and thinking like it was a really interesting thing to know, only a few weeks later to see it actually be proven in real life. My wife and I went to a friend's house for a little get together, and drinks were had, and my buddy, who happened to be the host, ends up falling asleep sitting down sitting down at the table that we're all drinking at, from obviously how drunk he was. And his wife thought it would be funny to put pepper up his nose to make him sneeze while he's sleeping. So she gets the pepper, she's like popping it in his face, kind of dousing his nose with trying to get him to sneeze, and nothing's happening. And we're all trying to figure out why he wasn't sneezing, and then it clicked. And I remember reading that if a person is asleep, so are the receptors in the nose, and that's why he didn't sneeze. And when I said that out loud, everybody looked at me like really surprised, like, why do you know that kind of thing? Like, it's just really weird. And I've been kind of chasing that high ever since. But I bring that up because I learned recently of another interesting fact that also has to do with the nose. And here it is. Did you know that your nose can remember up to 50,000 scents? The nose contains sensory neurons inside it which allow us to sense smells. And those molecules of the scent are then transported to the neurons in our brain, and it picks out 1 part per million of these scents in the air, and then we process these smells and encode them as memories. The encoded memories are so strong that if we smell a familiar scent, it can really take us back to a fond or terrible time in our lives. And it's basically the same way music can jog our memory to a time that we associate whatever song is playing it. Same principle with the smell. So yeah, it's kind of like a bonus fun fact in case you never heard me tell the pepper story. So now you know 2 interesting facts about the nose. Take that, store it, bring it out to hopefully wow some people and get that satisfying feeling of providing people with some what others would call useless information. All right, so as I said in the beginning, we have a special show today. I had the honor of being guest on their podcast and wanted to return the favor. Our guests today are Harrison, Kelton, and Cade from the Basement Binge podcast. This is my first remote podcast. We did it via Skype, and everybody sent in their specific track. Shout out to Harrison for mixing it down for me with all 3 of them on one track, so it made me a little bit easier for me. I'm still learning the whole podcast game, so this is new for me. I'm really excited about it. But the Basement Binge is a podcast about 3 friends getting together to discuss a previously agreed on movie and review said movie. They have different segments that they go over, and it's really entertaining. I really wanted to get these guys to do the podcast because it's all about positivity, and one of the main positive things that you will hear towards the end of the conversation is how a website called podchasers.com, which is basically the IMDb of podcasts, is donating 25 cents for every review a podcast gets on their website. They are also donating 2 times that amount for whoever responds to those reviews. All that money is donated to Meals on Wheels, and that alone made me really want to get these guys on just for bringing that to my attention. I highly encourage you guys to go check out podchaser.com and review this podcast, review the Basement Binge, and any other podcast that you like to listen to, simply because it doesn't take long, and you're going to be giving back to a good organization that's really doing things out there. Just a simple thing that can raise money for people in people in need, to feed those people in need. With that being said, let's start the podcast. So yeah, at this point, I pretty much already started the intro, and I just want to give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves. I got Harrison, Cade, and Kelton from the Basement Binge. No particular order, whichever one of you guys want to start first.
I'll go first. I'm Harrison. This is one of the hosts here. Yeah, like I said, my name's Harrison. All three of us, we are from Utah. So, yeah, our podcast, The Basement Binge, is a movie review podcast. Every week we review a movie and try and make something meaningful out of it, which I don't know if I should say now or get into later. But, yeah, that's kind of what we do. Have a ton of fun on the way, too.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm Kelton. We've all three of us been going at this together for almost a year now. I can't remember exactly how long, but yeah, we have a ton of fun, and we're excited to be here on the podcast today.
Yeah, my name's Cade. I'm actually a brother of Kelton. Harrison and I, we first met in high school, and we've been friends since then. And I can't remember when's the last time when we decided to actually go about and make this podcast. I believe it was Harrison's first idea, and then kind of just ran with it, and it's been a whole lot of fun. We've learned a whole bunch, and we're excited just to be on here with Jonathan and just to be a part of his podcast and see what he's got to offer, because he was part of ours just a couple of days ago, and we're all excited. So let's get to it.
Yeah. So just a note, this is my first actual remote podcast recording for my own podcast. Obviously, I helped you guys with yours, but yeah, it's been pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this actually turns out and stuff. But so give us a little background. I know you guys are all friends from Utah. What got you guys started on what made you want to do a podcast specifically?
Harrison, I hope you don't mind me taking on this one, but I remember, so all three of us actually, we all were kind of in the lawn mowing business this last summer, and I remember every Saturday we'd meet up and just tackle like 16 logs, and man, it was so long some days just trying to get all the lawns done. It really did. I mean, it took basically all day Saturday to get it done, but I remember there was this one house, I think Cade was gone, he couldn't make it this one Saturday, and Harris and I were like weeding this garden, and it was this big garden. It took us like 30 minutes or something, and we were just talking about, like, because generally whenever we did this lawn mowing stuff, we'd talk about anything that came to mind, right? And we always noticed we kept talking about, oh, did you guys see this one movie? Just quote movies and talk about our favorite scenes and stuff like that. And Harrison and I were kind of like, wow, like this is a ton of fun just talking about movies. And so then Harrison had the idea to start our own podcast, and that we would just all come together, watch a movie, and just kind of talk like we normally do, and try not to be super scripted or anything, but just like talk about our favorite scenes, just have a ton of fun, and just have our own little podcast, even if it wasn't like going huge or anything, but that we could just have fun and joke around and make a podcast while we do it. So
Yeah, going off what Kelton said, at least for me personally, I've never really started anything myself. The only thing that's even remotely close to going out and starting on my own with somebody or by myself is when I went out and did sales back in 2017, and that was, a disaster in itself. So
sales is rough, man.
That's a different story for a different day. But it's, I don't know, it was really cool because it was something new and different, and I've always kind of liked the idea of a podcast and making it with friends, and I thought that was just a really cool idea. And so I was really wanted to just jump on board with Harrison's idea once I was able to join up with Kelton and Harrison in their big idea. But it was, I don't know, I've learned a whole lot about this whole different, community of people that listen to podcasts, in a car or wherever they want to be. And this is a different sort of content that's still a way to connect. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so interesting to me, learning all this stuff and learning from different podcasts and things like that. It's really cool.
Yeah, never in a million years would I think I'd be talking to three guys from Utah. Not for now. I don't have any ties to Utah. I don't know anybody in Utah, so this is This is cool. It's a good way to connect. So what exactly do you guys do besides the podcast?
Oh, like outside of the podcast. So, yeah, we all work well, we all work. I don't know if we all work full time, whatever that means. But so outside of work, I'm a Medicare salesman over the phone. So I sell Medicare to a bunch of old people. Talk to old people all day. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I actually work in construction. I build handrail. Like, we're just rail specialists, you know, basically the part that keeps people from falling down the stairs. So basically, I save lives for a living. But yeah, I've been doing it for about 2 years now. I work in that full time right now, and Kate actually works with that as well with me. We both work for our dad. It's his own company, and he started like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and so we've just been working at that for a hot minute.
Nice.
Yeah, I've worked a little longer with Kel just because, you know, I'm older than him, but at this point we basically have had the same amount of experience at that job in construction. Right now I'm kind of going off. I'm at school right now at the University of Utah. I'm going into recreational therapy, which is basically, in a sentence, is occupational therapy, whether it be for people with intellectual disabilities or physical disabilities, help them just really recover or improve their well-being and lifestyle. Because sometimes it's permanent, the obstacles that they're facing, so we try to give them the best life that they have through like different programs and stuff. Like, one major one is you could count as recreational therapy is Special Olympics. A lot of people go there and be trainers and stuff. That's one thing I want to do, at least to get out to Colorado, which is where the training facility is at. But right now it's just going through school, so I've got 1 more year left. But on the side, I'm working with Kel in the construction business, so just all three things a lot of things all at the same time.
Yeah, and this is what I love about podcasting. You got somebody who sells Medicare online, you got a construction worker, and now you're getting into recreational therapy. But your podcast is not about that at all. Your podcast is about specific movies that you guys pick and discussing all types of little segments. If you guys want to break down the segments for some of the listeners who will most likely cross platform and go check out your podcast and what it's all about.
Yeah, well, we'd appreciate it if you guys would do that. We have a few segments we break down. I guess we can take turns breaking them down. But we always start our podcast with just like a spoiler-free. We call it the spoiler while we came up with silly names for them all. But just a spoiler-free reaction to the movie. And then real similar to that, after we get into the spoilers, we call it 2 cents, where you just like get 2 minutes without anyone interrupting you to just share your thoughts about the movie. So that's how we start every podcast.
Mm-hmm. And after that, we have what we call Pick Our Poison / ranking. This is kind of our own, I guess, chart or like way to determine whether we personally enjoyed the movie or not. Like, what it ranges from, like, of course, never watch again to like buying the movie and everything in between. And we also, like, for some certain like movies, like currently we're going through the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we ranked all the movies 1 through 23 before we started watching, and we kind of visit our rankings and talk about whether they're going to go up or down, and at the end we kind of redo a ranking, and we plan on doing that for different like series in the future. And that's our third segment. So
yeah, and then the next one, Least and Likes, I believe, yes. So we just pick our least favorite scene and our favorite scene, and I think sometimes this might be where we get the most banter in our episode. We kind of just bicker back and forth with what's our favorite, what's not, and what sucks about the movie and stuff. And then I think our very last segment, it's called Fall In. I think this might be that segment is the main reason why we started the podcast and why we keep doing it, is because that segment, it takes the longest, but it's the segment where we just kind of talk about the messages in the movies, really, and breaking it down of like what movie meant to us and how we relate to it, and talk about how that movie compares to like life situations, and that could be good and bad, and a lot of times